brand over. Have it be cheap.
Yeah, to all art. Just put Janet
Mhm.
Sutherland's art in our background. Um, you know, I have been accused occasionally of having pet peeves. By the way, do you want to know one of my new ones? Is like when one person's like this on the show and the other person's like you are. I can't,
Oh no!
get the heads kind of even, right? Like that's
Without naming names, who did it? Is it someone we know?
oh, I can't tell you that. Nancy's here already. Hi, Nancy. It's her fault that we have Janet Sutherland as artist here. And hi, Joanne. Good to see
So
you.
I'll tell you something fun and very briefly. I am very rarely on Facebook these days. And one day I happened across a post from Nancy Harhut, a fan favorite on the show, behavioral science for marketing and all that stuff. So imagine my surprise when she posted about art and showed some beautiful watercolors from her friend, longtime friend, Janet Sutherland, who she knew back when they worked together in the advertising industry. So I had questions. And we got Janet to come on our show. So excited.
Hi, everyone. Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, welcoming you to The Backpack Show. Your hosts, Chris Brogan, Kerry Gorgone, Boom Shakalaka.
Backpack Show.
So I looked at Nikki Porcher today.
I saw Nikki too. I was like, oh, that's so great. How fun.
I love seeing how people we've had on the show like this. Some of them have just blown up since then. Some of them have reinvented themselves since then. It's fascinating.
We will never get some of these people to come back and do our dumb
we're too small time for them now.
But if you wanted to make a cool show like this, you could. You just go to StreamYard and make your own. cbrogan.net/StreamYard. You can make
art. I want art.
Oh, well, we'll do art. Let's grab our new best friend, Janet Sutherland. I mean, it's the start of something lovely. Janet, welcome on board the show. Good to have you.
So good to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So this is Nancy's fault, like Kerry alluded. Nancy Harhut said, I've got this cool pal, and what'd she say, Kerry? Very nice things. How did this get started?
I was basically like, oh my gosh, her work looks really cool. Do you think she'd come on our little dumb show? And Nancy said, oh, she's so interesting. I met her back in advertising days. And then, it was all preordained.
Wow. So advertising to art, it's not a horrendously large stretch, but it kind of is in some ways. How did this get all going? Like, when did you finally get brave enough to say, I really am going to pursue this?
Probably like mid-career, you get to the point where you're saying, this isn't actually what I went to art school for. But it's not really a big change. It's not really a big difference from an awful lot of people, in that a designer goes through there's a lot of great artists who started out as designers. It's kind of good training in that art is design. That's
but I
probably
think
the most.
But leaving any kind of steady job, if you want to call it that, to go pursue your art is, I think, a scary thing. So how did you find the courage to do it? And was it easy, or did you encounter some bumps in the road?
Well, there's another thing about designing. A designer can phase out. You can freelance. So for probably 15 years, I worked freelance and spent half my time making money in advertising and the other half painting. In fact, Nancy one day said, I don't really have that job for you. And I said, oh, not to worry, I'll just paint. And she said, we've got to find you some work.
Love Nancy.
I am deep in the work already. I'm scrolling it so that people on the show get to see what you have done and get a chance to really fall in love with your work as well. I've seen some motifs here. I've seen little things that you seem to come back to more than once. For instance, things like crossings, things like what looks like maybe sunset, or the golden hour. What are some of the Janet Sutherland known goods? What are the things that we're going to see when we see a Janet Sutherland painting?
I think what actually inspired me when I did decide to start painting again was I moved up here and from New York City, And you just see so much beauty, and you see people who are actually painting and making a living at it. So I was, of course, inspired. So what I'm looking for is like quintessential New England. But the other thing you're doing when you're painting is anything you paint is basically just a vehicle to portray light. So in a lot of ways, the fun thing of painting your environment is finding things that are pretty mundane and showing how beautiful they can look.
I was looking at the light in some of the snowy ones because that's a hard thing to capture. Light reflecting off snow because it's, multiple little crystals, and it's just beautiful the way that you've done it. I'm not like an art critic for this. I just know what I like, but I think it's beautiful.
It's lovely to hear someone say that. Thank you.
One of the things I love about it too is when you say about capturing the beauty of New England, things like these boats in the water, the little guys, by the way, what a great title. So I'm weird. And so of course this one struck me. This one here is, someone sitting on a bench next to a business truck, like one of the small in-town kind of trucks. What made you say I need to do this one? I'm going to make this painting.
That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, in that the mundane that you might pass by, I would love to capture it. So somebody says, yeah, I've been looking at the effect every morning of that and never noticed how great looking it is. In actuality, that's Vieques. And the other thing I loved about it, it was really kind of felt like Puerto Rico, in that it was, how Puerto Rico has a little bit of a tarnished look to it, but still is beautiful.
Do you sketch first, or how do you, what's your process?
Yeah, sketching is the thing you have to do. You have to draw. And so many people, when they try to paint, the problem when they're painting is not the painting itself, but the drawing. You really have to draw all the time. So yes, first you put it in a kind of monochromatic way, and then you go from there.
So there's something that we'll probably lose the non-artists in the room, but there's something different about the way you, with oil, you build up from the darks and then you put your lights on top. With watercolor, you have to keep room for the light the whole way. Now, I noticed, at least on your website, which might not manage the real world, there are far more oil paintings represented on your website than oil. Does that point to a preference? Are you happier putting the light in after, or tell me a little bit about your process?
I love watercolor, and artists often start with watercolor, but it's like absolutely opposite, because in truth, watercolor is the tougher medium.
Right.
Because of just what you just said. I mean, you can really have the thing almost done and blow it, whereas oil, you can always go back and change it 2 years from now. So part of it is, as I'm trying to make a living, it's easier to produce oils and they're more reliable. But I'm really going to push myself to go back to watercolor because they are so beautiful.
Joanne says it's like going back home. Her family's from New Hampshire. And Nancy says both your art and your marketing work are so good, but with fine art, there's no legal and compliance review. Hey, that hurts, Nancy.
Janet, I have a question about process in another way too. So Kerry had just mentioned, I forget if this was just a conversation at dinner with some friends or if it was on the show itself. Kerry just went to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, and also who's the other fool? Rembrandt.
The Rembrandt House.
And so Van Gogh, one of the things that was happening is he crisscrossed with photography. Like, as photography is showing up and people are like, we don't need painters anymore. He kind of took that in a direction. Kerry, remind me what the direction was, and then let's ask Janet this question.
He was trying to move away from what would look like photorealism, like trying, instead of depicting how it actually looks, because a photograph could do that, he would show the impression of it or show a different side of it. He tried to show the truth underneath how it looked, if you get me. Like show the stormy beach instead of the nice sunny beach where the people were riding horses along it, that kind of stuff. So trying to show the truth without being photorealistic. And he pushed art forward in a way that I think other artists at the time did not. So that was what I was thinking
in a
about.
world where all this digital stuff can make us make anything look realistic enough, what are you trying to make happen in these paintings?
It's funny because Kerry just reminded me of a saying about art, in that art is a lie that tells the truth. You can't. When I first started painting, I went out with my teacher, and I painted a painting in which I matched the colors perfectly, and it was pretty dull. He painted a painting in which he exaggerated the colors. We were on a beach. He made the sand warmer, the sky cooler, so the colors vibrated against each other. And his looked so much more like the day. Mine was slavishly matching colors like a photograph does. And so that is really part of it. The other thing you're talking about too is during that whole time, during the Impressionists, that's one of the things that pushed them. Photography was coming in. And that's still an influence now. I mean, when I went to school, abstract art was the only thing you could produce. Representational is making a comeback these days, though, especially in this area, because this area has this wonderful tradition of representational art that's like hundreds of years old, and Gloucester and Rockport and Algonquin. Artists have always been coming here and doing that.
I have a question for you, Janet, because I didn't notice, I guess, that Van Gogh didn't sign all of the work he did, because he only would put his name on it if he was really happy with how it turned out. I saw a lot of works of his that did not have his name on it because he was just experimenting or trying to figure out how to do something with light or shadow, something like that. So do you have works that you don't put your name on, or do you just put your name on everything and figure out the critics will sort it out later?
No, but it's the truth. You don't sign it unless you're happy with it. Van Gogh, I think one year toward the end of his life, turned out something like 300 paintings in the year. He was doing like almost a painting a day. So
that's crazy.
Who had the time to go back and decide he liked it, aside from all his other problems? But
one of my favorite is the almond blossoms was a birthday gift for his nephew, and so he spent 3 whole weeks on it during that same period you're talking about, where it was a painting a day. 3 weeks on this one, and he still didn't sign it because it was a gift. Interesting.
Really?
Artists are so interesting. This is why I had to get you on the show. So you signed.
You know that, like,
when do you sign it? When is it finished?
When I decide it's totally finished and I don't want to. And even after I sign it, I'll go back and work on it. But when I'm feeling that day like it's ready to go. Do you know, like, Leonardo was one of the first artists to start signing his paintings. Artists up till then were considered just craftsmen who painted
just
paintings,
doing a job for their patrons. So he was our first DJ Khaled shouting his own name out onto his own song. Janet, there's another thing I don't remember. I might have missed it slipping by, but it turns out there's another person in your life who makes a little bit of art here and there, who couldn't join us, but your husband. Right. Your husband makes a little bit of art. Who came first in this chicken and the egg story? Or is that why you guys, fell in love with each other? What's the art connection? Because what people don't know behind the scenes is we ripped a bunch of his stuff off the wall behind you and put yours up. The house is lousy with painting.
What is in the garage?
All right.
No, look. May I go like this?
Yes, of course.
This side of the room, can you see them?
Yes.
Is Mike Dorsey's.
I'll make it bigger.
Yeah, let's make it bigger. Oh, nice.
This side of the room is mine. Well, you can't
Nice.
even see him in the dark there. Yeah. But no, he also went to, I went to Cooper Union, he went to RISD. So we were art school, but we were designers together. And I probably went soon enticed to go back to painting too. So we're really lucky we can go out painting together.
Do you have one close that you could show us? Like hold up.
Oh yeah, what do you have? That you can
Mike's?
just, or
Of
yours?
yours.
Wiggle
Of
something
yours,
amazing.
silly bunny. We'll get Mike on the show.
Okay.
He's got to be his own guest.
Yeah. I've been
Wow.
doing a series. Whoa. This is
Right towards the
a
middle lens thing.
nocturne.
There you go.
Yeah. It's a nocturne of Rockland. You know Rockland, Maine?
Yes.
Great place. And a real center for art too. But I've been doing a series of 12 by 12s, which I love. And then the ones that I really get into, I enlarge. So it's a great, they're faster to do, but they're full-fledged paintings because they're big enough. But then I can like work out ideas for larger paintings.
Capturing that night feeling is kind of interesting too, especially where a lot of your other work works on that sort of golden hour, best time of day, the most picturesque. But this is a feeling too, because the work day is done, things are happening here. We've got a scenario going on. So it's interesting. When you're doing this, do you do anything to kind of keep that emotion evoked? It's not like you whip this thing out in 35 minutes. So like, what do you do to keep the mood and mindset going in between?
If you're plein air, this one wasn't done plein air. I probably do half and half. But if you're working plein air, part of what you're doing is memory because things change so quickly. So you have to go in and do the thing is going to change quickly, which are the light and shadow areas. And sometimes I'll just go in and like indicate what it's going to be like, and then go back and color it in like a coloring book kind of. You really have to like make notations to yourself.
Like keeping a dream journal where, it all sort of fades when you wake up. So you have to like write down a couple key phrases so you don't forget.
It's the truth. If you, one time we were looking at one of those great shows the MFA had of Edward Hopper. One of his best known houses, paintings of a house or a lighthouse, you can see he sat there and the light changed. It doesn't matter, but his lighting isn't technically correct.
Well, it makes me think of a couple things. One is that Van Gogh wrote to his dad about a painting he had done saying he loved it and then said, never mind, it sucks. I was completely wrong. And he realized that the shadows were going the wrong way from like the way the light was coming from behind a building or something. And you're looking at these trees and the light's like not going the correct way. So he was pretty hard on himself. But one thing I wanted to ask you about, when I went to the Rembrandt house in Amsterdam, there was a chair on like a platform by the window and they called it an attic. I don't know why. It's not what I think of as an attic, but it was like a raised up area. And he would sit, Rembrandt, in this chair and watch the neighborhood kind of go by. And a lot of the neighbors found their way into his work. So have you ever just sat at your window and made sketches of what you've seen? Or do you like to travel and find a spot that looks promising?
Both. Like Edward Hopper was known for driving around for days looking for places to look. But I mean, on my site, in fact, I think I may only have one of the ones I did outside my, the neighbor's house, outside my studio window. It was during COVID and you kind of felt like you were
Trapped?
inside and trapped. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah, now I know which one that is. I'll have to go through them all and look for it.
Yeah, I'm looking at Chores Waiting in Sunlit Alley. I'm like rushing through your paintings on your site to see if I can find it.
We'll have to figure out which one it is. So a lot of people have joined. Let us know that they joined. So I don't know if you're taking attendance, Janet, but
I think this is a Nancy Harhut thing. That's what
folks who have joined.
I think that the world's most renowned behavioral marketer said, "Hey, when you join, make sure you say you joined." It's the first time I've ever even seen this. I have a question. We touched this once. I just want to talk about it more, I guess. There's trash cans. There's yellow cones by the side of the road showing where the construction is. Now, obviously, that's what's in the picture. But when you paint, you can say, I can omit this if I want. And you're like, darn it, I'm putting a trash can in here. All those decisions all add up to something. What do you want people to take away besides beauty? What do you want people to be thinking about when they look at that? Because the thing I like about your paintings, before you answer, the thing I like about your paintings is they have a sort of, I can spend some time here effect to them. And that's not often true about paintings. I'm horrible at museums, Janet. I walk through museums like I'm a speed walker. But yours make me want to sit and look for a while. What do you want people to see when they spend that time?
Wow. First of all, that's such a nice thing to say, but and I'll tell you why, but I really want to make sure that I'm portraying things that you might pass by and not notice the beauty that really is there. And so I go out of my way to find the mundane, not in everything, of course, but, and say, when the light happens to be like this, it's beautiful. And, that's another thing. They say that what the artist has to do is show somebody what they already know. So that's exactly, you know what light looks like when it's going across a building. It might not be the building, it might not be the trash can, but you can look at it and say, yeah, that's how it feels. So that's what I'm trying to do, really.
I know I keep talking about this, but the Van Gogh Museum had one painting that had been made on a tea towel because he felt like he had to paint this thing like right now. Have you ever had that experience where you don't have the materials to hand, but you really want to capture the moment? And what'd you do?
Sometimes I'll pick was unsigned paintings and paint over them. But yeah, there's my neighbor's house. I've painted his house a few times, so he's really.
He's like, please stop it.
I live next to him. I won't reveal this address.
He'll have people coming by to take photos of his house. We'll be so annoyed.
Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes when you have, I don't know how to say this. So you have a work you've already done and it's not signed and you've decided for whatever reason it's disposable, you paint over it?
Often. If it's smooth enough, I'll paint over it. If it's got big lumps so that you're painting a person and they've got a house's outline going through their face, it ain't going to work. But other than that.
This one actually kind of reminded me of Campobello Island where FDR used to hide out. And there's a little building on it that sort of looked like that. I saw it a million years ago when I was a Boy Scout. Well, we're gonna drag you off the set, but we have to do a couple things before we do that. So one of the things we do occasionally.
This should be easy.
Yeah.
Oh, and here's our person of the day. Kaboom!
Why don't you click it? Because you know.
Come on, it has to be. Let me find a good one though.
Yeah.
Nancy Harhut for bringing us our guest today and the background as well, and also taking a chance to dig at lawyers like myself. But Nancy's so nice. I don't feel bad about it. I'm like, that's a good point.
So Nancy, you're the person of the day. That entitles you to one free apple. Just wander into any old store and steal the apple.
No, don't do that.
Home, eat it all you want. It'll be fine. Who's going to know?
Purchase it, wash it, and bake it into a tartlet or something.
Tartlet, yeah. All right, we've come to one part of the show we've always asked every single guest. What is something that goes in your backpack? It could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. Kerry, what's a physical thing somebody could add to a backpack?
First of all, you're forgiven, Nancy. I love you. Physical would be like an extra set of teeth. DJ Cumberbund said an extra set of teeth.
That makes perfect sense. Is there something metaphorical we could add to a backpack?
Oh, kindness. Ariel Helvetica, burlesque performer, put kindness into the backpack.
Elizabeth, I'm just going to say, definitely watch this one. You're going to have a whole lot of fun. This is a heck of an episode. Yeah, my art started at my generation in my household, except that my gramps used to draw little muscle men, kind of like the way that they used to do old-timey Dick Tracy and all that, very sharp lines, very creasy kind of lines. And he did John Carter of Mars, he did Tarzan, but the one that we used to beg him to draw